Okay, when you're painting with watercolor, that word water goes first, so you just put a little bit of color and a lot of water, and you can streak it like this. Always go horizontal so it doesn't look weird, and don't scribble it up and down, as one of my students used to call it, scribble scrabble. No scribble scrabbling. And one of the students asked how you made tan. You take a brown and just use a lot of water and you get a tan. So that's one way to get tan. I guess you could go sit in the sun. That's a terrible joke. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's another way to get a tan.
So here's the sky, and I did that with watercolor. And I can do part of the building with watercolor and part with crayon or colored pencil. If you got a kit from me, you got some colored pencil. You can blend colored pencils, so let me see if I can't. So that's a little too brown. Actually, it looks even almost red. Let's add some green to it. If you want brown to calm down, you add green to it, and it'll calm down. Let me test it on a little piece of paper. And you can do that. Always try and test it before you do it on your, it's too green. Before you do it on your good paper, because you don't want to mess anything up. Okay. Would you mind going up to the attic to get it from him? You can talk to him about the camera right now. And I've got this funky yellow here that I can use for my tan. So, see, that's good enough. You don't need it to be perfect. But follow the shape of the building, whether you're doing it in colored pencil or watercolor. And this isn't super great paper for watercolor, but it'll do. We're not trying to make the Mona Lisa. Did you know that Leonardo da Vinci worked on the Mona Lisa for 4 years when he was in Italy, in Milan, and he worked on it for another 16 years when he moved to France to become the court painter for the king, Francis I. So that's a lot of work. And you have to use a microscope to see all the brush strokes. Now you can see my brush strokes. But then he was probably using a brush smaller than this, so. Okay, so let's say that that was the only color I had in watercolor. Could I mix watercolor and colored pencil or crayon? Yeah, you can. The door's locked.
Yep, the door's locked. You knew what was going on.
Yeah, I know. Here, use this key to go in. I'm telling him you're coming, and then remember to lock it when you come back out.
Gotcha.
Okay. Tim's gonna have to cut this part out. All right, so you probably don't have a huge box of crayons, but this is a brown. It says it's copper. Yeah, right. It's brown. And I am going to color right in here. And I'm going around my tassels. Because remember the tassels are red? And I have no idea what the tassels mean. Maybe that was the Vogue in 1922. contrary to popular belief, I wasn't around then. So I don't know. At least I certainly wasn't around Ohio State. So here's the brown inside. And you can use, I think I have a red pen to do my tassels, but I'm going to use the watercolor paint. See those little windows? They'd probably be dark. So when you're done coloring the whole thing, I'm going to do it now, but you wait till it's done. I'll look for a black or a dark color. Any dark color will work. Like this dark blue would probably be fine. Nah, that's not dark enough. That's too bright. So let's see. There's a pen. So just make it, well, it won't let me color over that. Don't you hate it when they won't color over it? This'll work, I think. She said. Okay, so those would be dark, and there's probably a set over here that are dark to match it. I'm wondering if this is where they originally took the tickets, because now you have to go through the main thing. And I'm going to go ahead and color those in with this. I can't find my ruler right now, which is pretty typical. So I am going to use the edge of a pencil. That will work. I want to darken here. Now they actually have a little doorway like this in them, but the idea is to keep you out. If you're not there for the game, you're not there. Oops. And I used a ruler and I got it crooked. Anyway, here we go. And we'll put a gate line like that. And you can make a little rectangle for the gate. I think I can freehand it better than I can use a ruler. Yep, I can. Let's make sure it's really attached. I don't want people coming in. Aren't supposed to be in there. Okay, so there's my gate. And right there is Script Ohio. And I thought it had a buckeye leaf, but it doesn't. It's just red. So whether you're using watercolors, crayons, or markers, make your, it looks like pink, doesn't it? Boy, that would get everybody excited. So here I have my symbol for Ohio State. And remember, you have to say the Ohio State. The is very important. It's a tradition. Okay, so I'm going to go over my little railing here. They don't want you walking on the grass, not on the stadium floor grass, and not there. And I am going to use both crayon and watercolor on my trees. So, this red, is this really red? It says Sears. Seriously? It's Sears. No, we're not going to use that. Is this red? That's the trouble with one of these giant packs. They got faux red and all sorts of weird reds, and that'll work, I think. Let me see. Testing. Oh, that's great. So we color our little tassels red and the little bowl shape that attaches them. And I'm only doing this because I'm afraid some of you really didn't color your stadium. Also, Chase Hall, please make the area behind your gold flowers, roses. They look like Tudor roses, by the way. And that's the Royal House of English Monarch. That the area behind them is blue. So I'm going to color behind them with blue. So behind my roses are blue. And it's blue tile. So, and it's there to make those golden flowers really stand out. So they're not just blue to be blue. They're blue for a reason. Now, originally, the coffers, these square things, were in the Pantheon, and there probably were gold medallions in the ceiling. I mean, think about it. If you're the Emperor Hadrian, you got more money than you know what to do with, so you make sure all your gewgaws are real expensive. You want some expensive gewgaws. But they were stolen over the centuries, and I think they must have stolen the blue tiles too, because I suspect this is fairly accurate, some of it. Now, I want to put, I don't have any gold paint. Normally I have gold paint, but unless you have some, now if you have a gold marker or something, you can use that, but I'm just going to use this yellow here and put a little dot in the center of each. And you want to just dab it. And because it's watercolor, the pencil will come through and you'll still see the shape of the little flower, which looks like a 3rd or 4th grade posy. Doesn't look like anything fancy, which is typical. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that off. And yeah, I think I will use paint to put my background in behind there. So let's be careful and draw in. Notice how this is round. That's because it's a half dome, and we're showing the half dome like the Pantheon, which is everybody's description of a totally cool building. And if I were wealthy beyond belief, I would take you there. It is an amazing building. Where the oculus is, or the opening in the roof, it makes a spotlight on the floor. And when you stand in it, you feel like you're the star of a show or something. And I watched people stand in the center of that spotlight, enjoying the whole experience. It was sort of interesting. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll go back and do some other stuff. Okay, all right. I want to darken my windows because if there are only 2 ways you can go with windows unless they have bright curtains in them. So I don't want them to be of great interest. So I'm going to darken my windows like this. Maybe I will put blue in them because oftentimes they will reflect the sky. And our fake columns here, they don't have fluting in it. And fluting are those like carved sides, so they don't have that in it. No fluting. When we do other things in class, it might have fluting. If you want to outline your whole thing with black, I don't care. Use a black pen, or if you have a marker. I'd be a sort of a sad artist if I didn't have a lot of this stuff, but I do. Okay, let me just draw a little line there, make sure my 2. And remember, Doric columns are the ones that don't have any fancy stuff at the top. Doric for dull. Corinthian is for acanthus leaves, or I think corn, because the word Corinthian starts out sort of like corn. And the center one that's all swirly, and I'll look for a sheet of paper to display that. The third one is Ionic. So we got Doric, we got Ionic, which just looks like spirals, and it usually has a little there. And then we have Corinthian, which looks like leaves. And that's what's on the side of the Colosseum. So the Colosseum starts with this one, and the second floor has this, and the fanciest is in the cheap seats, or where all the free seats that people who just were spending the afternoon there as a citizen of Rome sat up in the top seats, and they got the fancy columns, which is probably just the opposite of the way it would be today, because rich people always get the best. And if you look at OSU Stadium, you'll see that. I wonder if that would highlight my little tassels. So does he have a camera you can use?
Yeah, we talked about it. We haven't talked about pricing or anything yet. We talked about it.
He has every kind of camera on earth.
Right.
He's been collecting cameras for decades. You know, you name it, he's got it. Okay, that makes my tassel stand out better. And then we're gonna go around here and make that. Now remember, we did this to show that the wall is thick. And I'll probably just do that on the other side and then paint that in. How are we doing for time?
You're at 17 minutes, so you can record for another 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay. So now let me feel with my fingers. See, this is done. I'll let it dry a little more. Okay, so you can either color these, but when you color these cypress or whatever they are, what I call corn dog trees, do not color them straight up and down. These have wiggles in them because they're like a Christmas tree. They have texture. And with this line, we are creating texture. So I'm going to do like that. And then if you have paint, you can paint in there. Or if you've got, I'm going to take that brown and make the base of the tree here. So there we go. And I'll get that wet. Now you could do it with another shade of green. Like this would be a good one to color it with. It's a different shade, so you can tell you got 2 shades here. Shading is really important for artists to know. But I'm going to make a green over here. And see what happens when you paint watercolors over crayon? That crayon just pops right up and says, hey, that line's still here. Let me through. So there it is. And I love the way it looks, by the way. I think it looks much more exciting than just paint. Okay. So here is my tree. And you do not have to match the colors. You are not painting a wall. So if they're different shades of green, who cares? It could be this tree is healthier than that tree. Doesn't matter. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and outline my tassels and let this dry for a minute. Be careful that you don't smear this when it's wet. And why they have tassels, I have no idea. Just think that's the weirdest thing. I guess I'd have to look at some architecture from 1922 and see if that was what everybody did then. Because it could be. You can either color in your windows like this up here so they reflect the sky, or you can make them black like that, which means the room is in darkness and the light can't get to it. It could be a cloudy day. I just think this looks nice with the blue. If you wanted to put red in there, you could. I have my red here. Now, is it super red? No. I think it's, what color? It says it's neon something, metallic. says, Big Dip O Ruby.
What?
That's what it says on the crayon, Big Dip O Ruby. Really strange.
That is strange.
I guess Ruby was dipping. Okay. So I want this wall to be a little different. So let me get a larger brush. Okay, by the way, this is a round, and this is a fan brush for doing bushes and whatnot. And if this part, the neck on it, is flat, and you've seen that when your parents paint walls, then it's called a flat. So I'm going to add a little more brown to it so this one looks different from that one. And the only reason I am painting this is because we have to go faster. These tapes aren't that long. I might leave that white just because I want it to stand out. And if you wanted to get fancy, you could put little bits of shade from these trees. You decide. A lot of you just want to grade, but for those of you who really want to blow my socks off, you can make it a little bit fancier. So see how that window sticks out now? Maybe I'll put the top of them. Now, if you wanted it at same color in the things, you just add a lot of water, and it's the same color, but it's a lighter value. And value is the darkness and lightness of a color. So, and this is a cartoon of OSU Stadium, which, remember, you want to put down, completed in 1922, the film said, so I'm going to change that date. Although personally, if you say 23, I'm not going to be excited. But we want to be accurate as much as we can. I thought maybe that was 23 was the year it was, but I guess they didn't say, okay, Dwight, are we done? Can we date this thing? Mm-hmm. People don't do that. So on the side, I want this light, so, because it goes all the way back, and down here on the edge, it would be round, because remember that it is round, it's shaped like a horseshoe. It never was going to be round like the Coliseum, because the original thing was to have track meets there, which they did in the 1920s and 30s. But then eventually, actually, it really didn't get filled up till the 50s. In the 1950s, they started filling every seat in the stadium. And by the 60s, it dawned on them that they were going to have to make the stadium bigger. So you'd probably make that color over here. Now about the grass, let's make it a really light yellow, like this. So, and then we want some kind of color. You can use your pencil, if you can find it, and make the sidewalk color. So the sidewalk can be just this. It's just a gray. Now, if you have black paint, you put a lot of water on it. And let's go ahead and go around our little barriers here. Do they stop people? Yeah, because it's considered socially unacceptable to walk on that grass. I know that that is foreign to you, but that is the way it is. People do not walk on this grass. It's just not done. And everybody knows it.
You get fined if you walk on the grass?
No, you don't get fined, but other people will yell at you.
So it's considered deviant if you walk.
Yeah, I guess it is considered deviant. Okay, and our little man here. And even though we're doing stick figures, you notice the head is not shaped like that. It's shaped like a head. So you want to do that. Okay, let's take our sidewalk up to here. You remember, you color your whole picture. You don't just color, and if you want to smear it a little, that's fine. And this part right here would be darker shade of gray, just because, and you want it to lay down. You don't want your sidewalk leaping up, so color it horizontally, like this. And in here, you want to make it darker because it's in shade. It isn't completely in shade. You can't really see very much, especially if it's a bright day out. It's dark in here. And then we're going to put a bit of color there. I think we'll use a blue. I don't remember. I think it's blue, but... So there's our block Ohio. And then over here with our football players, you're just going to have flashes of green for the field.
Oh, you gotta wrap it up soon.
Okay, I got to wrap it up soon. All right, so I need a little bit of our red here to put on the shirts. Remember, we can't see any numbers, so they're just little bits of red. And then you can just color in any old color in the back. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to put yellow back there. But that's what it should look like. And then this one should look like that. So we're out of time. So there you go. We're done.
Have a good day.
Bye.